Hi, it's Dawn again for MCS Awareness Month. Um, Sorry I didn't get the last two videos out. As you can see, MCS affects life very, very much whenever it comes to trying to do anything consistently. So from now on, I'm just going to get them out whenever I can. I'm sorry, I did intend to have one for every day of the month for this month, but it's just not going to happen, and I'm going to have to admit that. A couple days ago, I took my husband to the hospital for some pre-op appointments, and um, I was exposed, obviously, to everything that's in the hospitals, and while I was out. And yesterday, I made sure I went to my weekly group therapy visits. So that is one of the things that kind of took up some of my energy for each of those days. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about the fact that those of us who have MCS, it's very important for us to take care of ourselves and not only making sure that we're not exposed needlessly to chemicals and compounds that we may react to, but it's also important for us to take care of our mental health. Obviously, MCS brings with it a whole host of issues. It is not just the physical reactions that we suffer from when we are exposed to the various items that are harmful to us. But living this life, it is also very difficult to not sometimes slip into depressions and feelings of self worthlessness. There are so many people on my support group pages that I follow on Facebook that so many people just they give up because living seems like it is just too hard in this chemically induced addicted society to everything and anything that can really be harmful, not just to the people who have MCS. As I've said before, just because you may not be outwardly and immediately showing a reaction to some of these compounds that are in our daily lives, it doesn't mean that it's safe for you and that you're not being affected. It may take years of cumulative exposures on the cellular level before you realize that it's being that it is sorry again, brain fog. uh, Even on the best days, my train of thought will disappear from it, just right in the middle of a thought. And again, that is one of the hardest things for me because I once had a very quick and sharp mind. And knowing that I no longer have that has affected me. So, again, it's the self care, taking care of ourselves by going to go see mental health professionals. If you can't afford going to see a therapist, even seeing someone who has some counseling experience, like a pastor or another religious leader, can help. A school counselor, even if they don't understand MCS, which the group that I'm a part of, they do not understand MCS. They're trying to learn. Um, the therapist I see on a weekly basis, she has asked me for some research material so that she could look up here on YouTube or various websites of scientists and doctors who have tried to look into MCS. And that did me a world of good because I knew that someone was at least trying. She also asked for a list of certain safe items that could be used to clean the rooms that I'll be in the before, so that I'm not quite as effective whenever I come in for therapy, because there were several times that I've had to leave because even with my mask on, I just could not handle the exposures. So there are people out there who are willing to try to learn and to adapt as best as they can. We have to find them. But and self care can take on a whole world of different ways. It's not just going to therapy, although it does work. It does help. The group I'm in is actually for PTSD. I have PTSD due to childhood traumas, but MCS also has increased my PTSD because of the fact that the air that I breathe can become an enemy very quickly. Whenever someone comes into an elevator with me, I'm then trapped with that chemical exposure. And I used to think I was claustrophobic, but I'm actually learned that I'm a bit more agoraphobic, meaning that it's not the closed in spaces that I have issues with. It's the people in those closed in spaces. I can do the elevators just fine if it's just me, my husband. My speech slurred a few seconds there. I apologize. Um, but me and my husband were just fine. Maybe another couple, but that's about it. That's about as much as I can handle. Um, I actually had to take the stairs from the ground floor through the sub basement to the main floor, all the way up to the fourth floor for my husband's most recent appointments. Um, so, mental health is affected greatly whenever you have a mental condition. Whenever you have a chronic condition, it affects your mental health. So, yeah, you technically do have a mental condition at that point. Especially since so many people do think that MCS is just all in our heads. They don't really see that there are physical reactions even when we're not aware of an exposure. That we may find out what we were exposed to after we've already gotten sick or after we've already had difficulty breathing. Um, so that right there to me cancels out the whole fact that MCS is nothing but a mental condition. But just because it's not just a mental condition does not mean that there are not mental components to it. Um, and I hate, for those of you that I'm getting on your nerves because I'm saying I'm trying to stop myself. Again, it's the brain fog, and it seems to try to reset itself every few seconds whenever I'm trying to speak. So please bear with me, and I'm trying my best not to get on your nerves, but I do appreciate you tuning in to hear my little ramblings about MCS. And if you can hear my dogs outside, he's having some issues with some neighbor dogs because he's on a lead and they're not. So if he's getting on your nerves too, I apologize. Anyway, self care is very important for everyone, but especially those with chronic conditions, especially those that are not well understood by those around us, and especially even the medical community itself. What is self care? Well, it's anything that you're doing to take care of yourself. It can be something very small. It could be, I'm going to take 10 minutes to make sure that I have what I need before I start trying to take care of someone else. It can be if you enjoy getting a massage, going to the chiropractor. Whenever I was working, that was actually one of the ways that I was able to survive work the longest, was because I was going to the chiropractor and getting adjusted, and it did help with getting rid of some of the toxins that were being stored inside my joints and my bones in my back. So that's a good form of self-care. And if you've never tried a chiropractor, I highly encourage you to do so. I'm actually someone that doesn't really like touch, so I put it off until basically I was hurting so bad. I was just looking for relief in some way because the doctors weren't giving me anything, partially because they thought it was in my head, and partially because of the opioid crisis. Everyone was beginning to start to pull back from giving medicines even to those who truly do need them. And I'm a unique individual. I have an extremely high tolerance to pain medication. How extreme? Well, whenever I had my thyroid taken out for an hour and a half long surgery, the surgeon had to give me, in addition to the cocktail that they gave me to put me out, 9 doses of fentanyl and 8 doses of morphine just to keep me asleep. So I'd woke up on the operating table in a prior surgery whenever I was younger, so it was one thing that I was very worried about. So the doctor agreed to make sure that my brain waves were monitored in addition to my vitals. And it was through that monitoring that they realized this woman's starting to realize that she's being operated on. We need to knock her out some more. So, whenever you have a high tolerance to medication, it makes it even more difficult to get a doctor to give you anything that's actually going to help. Because let's face it, the medical community is used to so many people who are chronically ill coming in, and then they'll sell their pills, or people who are not chronically ill pretending to be ill. And it makes it very difficult for those who truly need the medicine and want to use the medicine appropriately to even get it. So I did do the chiropractor thing, and even after doing that, I was not given any medicine to help with my pain or my symptoms. So finding other ways to take care of myself became of a very high importance. I actually saw a very interesting thing this week on Facebook that I absolutely loved. For a self-care tip, treat yourself as well as you treat your pet. Because a lot of people treat their pets like they are just absolute golden. And it doesn't matter if they're a little overweight, it doesn't matter if they're a little crazy and running all over the place, making no sense at all. You still love them. And we should really try to love ourselves even during our craziest moments, even during the times whenever we think that we are completely unlovable, because our illness makes it where we feel like we're a burden to everyone who's around us. Don't ever give in to that feeling that you're a burden, though. There's help out there. It may not come in a form that you expect it. It could even come in a form of just a very small, I'm thinking about you. Someone may not know what to do for you, but at least you know that they're thinking about you. And but if you continue to isolate yourself, you're not going to come across those little tidbits of help. So, despite it being so difficult, we need to be able to continue to put ourselves out there for as long as we can. Because the more that we do isolate ourselves out of self preservation, the deeper into depression we'll draw into. And the longer we're in that depression, the harder it is to get back out. And I know that there are some self-care tricks that some people do. That those with MCS we can't do anymore. There are some people who love to go get a mani-pedi. It's not possible whenever you have MCS. Go get your hair done. There's not really an MCS friendly hair salon, because think about everything that's in a hair salon: the aerosols, the chemicals, that are used for the hairspray and the hair dye and the perms. All of that is completely unsafe for those who have MCS. So you end up with someone who just has lifeless, listless hair. Uh, but not going to complain about the fact that it's lifeless, though, because unfortunately it's also thinning because of my reactions to chemicals. I am constantly shedding as my body is trying to detox itself. So, there may be ways that you once took care of yourself, but is not possible now that you have MCS. But that doesn't mean that there's not another way that you can do it. Again, like I said, chiropractors. Many chiropractors don't use chemicals in their practices. Some use essential oils, and if you are not able to tolerate those, then that can really be a problem. But for those who can still tolerate those, even though they're not completely safe, if you're not reacting to them, then by all means take advantage of being able to go to a chiropractor's office or any other doctor's office that can help put you on the right track of trying to feel your best. There are some people in the MCS community that have been able to work with environmentally friendly doctors, integrative health specialists. However, they're not popular in some areas. I personally live in an area where that's not an option, to find doctors who step outside the box a little bit and use all natural solutions instead of a pharmaceutical pill or injections. But for those who can find them, use them. And I guess I'll go off topic a little bit and say it's a shame that we can't find more doctors who are able and willing to treat us, those of us who have MCS, and those that will treat us or at least talk to us, even though there's no true treatment or cure. They charged an exorbitant amount of money. When I was still trying my best to find a doctor who could just tell me what's going on. And all of my doctors kept on telling me, well, I'm not the kind of doctor you need, but I don't know who you need. I can't help you. I went online trying to find doctors who knew about MCS, and then I would contact them and try to get appointments. But those that knew about MCS, and at this time I still had insurance, now I don't. At that time, just to get an appointment, this is not seeing the doctor. This is just saying that, okay, I will put you in my appointment book. The cheapest that I could find would be to pay $600 up front before I've ever even walked through the door. That was not going to be the cost of my appointment. That was just how much they were charging to get me through the door. Another in my area means within a 5 to 6 hour drive. charged $1,700 just to make the appointment. Obviously, I couldn't do that. I was already out of work. Um, so I don't know if they could have helped or not. From what I'm able to hear from the majority of people in the MCS community, it might have helped for a short amount of time in helping to detox. But detox only works for as long as you stay out of that environment. So I could detox and feel great in my own home. But had I actually chosen to see if I could go back to work, the moment I would put myself back in the environment that got me sick in the first place, it would get me sick again. So I would go back to step one. So in hindsight, perhaps it was good that I could not afford going to such doctors, because that false hope, I don't know if I would have been able to have stood it, to have gotten better only to get worse again. So I wish I could find a doctor that could see me for a reasonable price out of pocket, since so many people who have MCS do end up out of work with no health insurance, many without a home. I'm not sure what it would take to make it where more doctors would actually take this condition seriously and try to find a way to actually help us and not extort us. Because that is what it is. Whenever you're charging someone more than $1,000 just to walk through the door, and that was with insurance. That is not without insurance. That was with insurance. You're charging more than $1,000 just to make an appointment, or the $600 that was the cheapest that I found just to make an appointment. That's extortion of the disabled. To take advantage of someone's illness is abhorrent. If someone did that to someone who had cancer, or someone who had epilepsy, someone who had ALS, there would be a huge outcry, because those disabilities are well known and accepted by society as a whole. Those illnesses are used to bring awareness to the world about them. And there are walks and there are fundraisers, and everybody wears their shirt saying, I kicked cancer's ass, or, any kind of, and I apologize to those who do not appreciate cursing. It came off the top of my head, but I've actually seen that shirt. That's why it came to my mind. But when this is done to someone who has MCS, it goes unnoticed. And it's a shame. This is MCS Awareness Month. And here we are already on the 10th day of the month. And again, I've contacted every radio station, every newspaper, every television station within a 100-mile radius of where I live. And I've not seen one story, one mention, one little blurb about MCS. So if a doctor's going to charge us an arm and a leg just to see us, why does anybody care? Because to the vast majority of people, society doesn't acknowledge us. So how does this go back to self-care? All of these things that I've ranted about, again, it pulls you down into a depression. It will cause you to be wary of leaving your home. But even with being scared to leave my house, I know that I need to. And you never will know where you might find a place that is accommodating until you try. I had a wonderful experience yesterday. There is a um, little country store less than 2 miles from where I live. They opened up maybe a year ago, and I kept on trying to tell myself I need to go in there. I really want to see what's in there. It's a country store that actually opened up in the building of an old bank that had gone under. So it was, to me, a little amusing to see the difference from going to a bank to a country store. So that was part of the curiosity of wanting to go in there. So I finished my therapy session, and I still had a few minutes before I needed to go pick up my son from school, which is less than 30 seconds from the store by car. So I was like, I'll go in, see what they have. I want something that I know is safe. And if any place I'm going to find safe food, it will be in a country store. The farmer's market in town is about 25 miles away. And I don't always have the energy to get all the way to town or the money. But yesterday I had a little bit of money from my husband to pick up a few items. And I had the time. So I decided to go on in. It's the only customer who was there. Someone else came in while I was checking out. And I took a risk. I didn't wear my mask to go into the country store. And I was able to breathe. And it took me by surprise that whenever I walked in, I didn't feel anything. I can't not remember the last time I've been able to go anywhere without feeling some sort of reaction. Even here in my home with the unscented trash bags right now, I've had to keep on trying to move them further and further away from the rest of the house to try to limit my exposure to them. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to move them all the way out to the garage, but I haven't done it yet because I don't want to inconvenience the rest of the family. So even right now, I feel a little burn in my throat from the off-gassing of the trash bags. But whenever I walked into that store, there was nothing. And I was so happy. And the woman there, she explained that they don't use any chemicals. They do use some essential oils, but I couldn't smell any, so they hadn't used any recently. But whenever they do use anything, they use essential oils. So I made sure I let her know that they're not safe for everybody, but again, at least it was safe for the majority of people. And there are some essential oils I can tolerate and some that I can't. Because they still do release volatile organic compounds. But for me, the vast majority of things that I personally react to are synthetic. So I was able to speak with her a little bit. We actually had both worked for the same hospital group, just different departments, before we both left our jobs due to different reasons. For me, my illness, for her, she and her family decided they wanted to start their own business. So she left the hospital grouping and she was there minding the store. So I was able to get me some grape jelly and some blackberry jam and some barbecue sauce and a gallon of strawberries. And I was just so happy whenever I left because I had one place I know I can go to now that I won't look like a freak wearing a mask. And something that simple, it it probably did me better than even going to my group therapy session yesterday because it gave a sense of normalcy. Because even in my group, I'm different. I'm wearing the mask. Everybody else isn't. And part of my PTSD comes from something that the rest of the group doesn't understand. So, but I wouldn't have known about this store that has been less than 2 miles away from my house for over a year already if I hadn't have just said, I'm going to do something for myself. I'm going to take a chance. I could have ended up really sick, but it was a gamble that worked. And now I have something that whenever I feel really bad about having to give up or not, because I can't go and do something else, I'm going to be able to go and grab that little jar of jam and make me some toast, make me some homemade bread. And if you don't know how to make homemade bread, you need to learn. For one thing, we all know that everything that's on a store shelf has lots of preservatives and stuff like that. Homemade bread is absolutely awesome. So homemade bread with some organically made jelly. Oh, I can already taste it. And that's going to be my little self-care for until the jar empties out and I have to go and buy me some more. But something that small can be a good self-care. So, do I really need the jam? No. But at least I know it won't have any preservatives in it and it doesn't have anything that is unhealthy in the way that at least I can read every ingredient that's in that jar. So that's a little small thing that can be considered self-care. And I will probably be exploring more and more of that store as more and more produce comes in throughout the season. But yeah, self-care, it's important so that we remind ourselves that we are worth sticking around. That there are reasons why we're here. It may be because someone down the road will need to know your story. Because you're the only one who can tell your story. I'm trying to tell my story a little bit along the way. So, everyone, make sure you take care of yourself. Find one thing that you can do for yourself, whether it be go make you a smoothie or sit down for one hour and watch your favorite show on Netflix or Hulu or YouTube or something that's just for you. Take care of yourself. Because if you don't, no one else is going to. And as you take care of yourself, you can find more and more ways to make living worthwhile. Staring at the same four walls every day can get boring. If you own your own home, draw. Draw on the walls. Who's going to care if it's your home? If you rent, get you some paper and draw on that, even if it's a stick person. Or if you like playing darts, put names of various kinds of chemicals that you know that you react to on the dartboard and stab the crap out of those chemicals with your darts, and you'll get a little bit better aim. If you're able to go out in public, go bowling or go to a movie. If you're not able to go out in public, turn on the music and dance, exercise, act completely nuts. It's fun. Some of us don't have to act quite so much as others. Uh, but sit with your dog or your cat or watch some fish. Fish are great. They're hypoallergenic, and you can watch them swim all day long, and it's very relaxing. So, find something that you can do that makes you feel good. Something that you can do that is beneficial to you. And whenever you hit the next little pit of depression, remind yourself of the things that you can still do. There's a lot of things that those of us who have MCS cannot or cannot do without knowing that we're going to have reactions afterwards. But that just means that we can keep track of everything that we can do a lot easier. So try to concentrate on that list of things, everything that you can still do, everything that you can enjoy. If your foods are limited, which I know that many people with MCS, they end up with a lot of food sensitivities as well. Find an enjoyable way to change up those few foods every once in a while. You may not be able to handle very many spices, but sometimes just cutting a fruit or a vegetable in a certain way can make it more pleasing to your palate. Turn your carrot into a rose. Turn your homegrown tomatoes. Awesome. I'm growing some outside right now. If you can eat tomatoes, there's nothing better than a homegrown tomato sandwich if you can handle bread. Again, homemade bread. Because many of us, we have sensitivities, but the sensitivities may be coming from the chemicals in our foods rather than the foods themselves. So find some hand ground flour, some locally grown wheat that has been grown organically without glyphosate, without the Roundup, because many people think they're intolerant to gluten, but it's really that poison that they're reacting to. Make you some homemade bread and put you a homegrown tomato on it. Sprinkle a little bit of pepper and salt. Some of the simplest pleasures can make you feel really good. Or I have some people in one of my groups that she enjoys just laying out in the sun, enjoying the sunshine. Doesn't cost a dime. If you're able to go outside your home, just into your backyard, and you enjoy sun, do a little bit of gardening. There's so many different ways that we can take care of ourselves that sometimes we forget that they're there, because we center in on all of the negative in our lives. It's hard not to do sometimes with chronic illness. But once you start taking those steps, it'll get easier. I'm not saying you won't have times where you backtrack a little bit, but you've got to keep trying, even if you're going to cuss the whole way. um, keep pushing yourself. Keep finding ways to take care of yourself. So, until the next video, my name is Dawn, and I have MCS, multiple chemical sensitivity. I am one face, but I am one face of many.